Okay, with director Kiersten White's A Differently Curated World is a 2-minute film, LGBTQ plus film festival. It's sort of you going through the kind of history of the Black LGBTQ plus female community. But what I want to talk to you about right off the bat is that I'm watching your film, I'm like, oh my God, she's doing A Different World. And basically, I'm like in my 40s, so I used to watch the show every single week. And I remember, and I'm trying to imagine because because I know because from your Film Freeway submission that you're in your 20s, that I can't believe that you're doing this show because I can't believe you know the show, which is fantastic. But I'm curious, how many people in your generation know that you're doing A Different World take?
That's and I'm glad you recognize that. You
Oh my God, I
recognize.
used to watch Cosby Show was 8 o'clock, and then this is when people used to have to go on TV and on Thursday nights, and Different Rule was 8:30. I used to watch it every week.
So I find that to be universal. Most people of your generation, it's a universal understanding or knowing that that is a different world.
Yeah.
However, my generation, and I was born in 96, so millennial. I'm claiming millennial, not Gen Z. Um, we only African American um people of my generation know that's a different world because that TV show has been passed down. Because it is one of the only TV shows before Grownish that used that showed and portrayed African American students at an HBCU or
Yeah.
college and follows them through. Now we have Grownish, and Grownish is like Gen Z's take on a different world. So I find that it is like kind of racialized, right? Like unless you grew up when you were watching that live on TV after the Cosby Show, where it was universal, regardless of race. If you grew up in America household, an American household, you saw a different world and you saw the Cosby Show, just like you said. But now in my generation, it's only I find that it's only Black kids who know that it's a take on a different world.
So that leads to even we'll get to your film in a second, but that leads to a bigger question because certain shows of a certain era get syndication and they get seen, right? Seinfeld, perfect example. This is a little bit before Seinfeld's time, but let's just be fair that this show did not get any syndication. Like I didn't see it anywhere, and this is what I do for a living, right? So I don't see it on any streaming service. I can't. If I'm looking for this show, I can't find it anywhere, right?
Yeah, if you're a good bootlegger, which I'm ashamed to say I am because in the film industry, I want to be able to pay, pay people what they're due.
Yeah.
A good 1, 2, 3 movie search will pull up a different world for you. You have to find it. It isn't
It
syndicated,
doesn't
no.
come to you. It's not on Apple. It's not on Amazon. It's not on Netflix. Basically, it's like those people are watching The Office because it's on. They're like, oh, what's this show? I'll watch it. That's how people run into things, right? Nobody's running into this show. You have to find it, like you just described, right? So
I think it might have been ran on BET for some time.
yeah, I don't know if it's the Cosby effect as well. That might be an influence because he was the
Yeah.
executive producer of the show, right?
Yeah, he was. So, that also could be a way of erasure.
But grown, you're talking about Grownish, but this was the Different World was an ensemble show. So you did have like trying to remember, was it Whitney? I'm trying to remember Whitney. They were at
Yeah,
Hillman College, right? And
Guy,
and then her
Jennifer.
boyfriend, but they were kind of the two leads, but at the same time, it was a very much of an ensemble show, right? So
Yeah. And you had, that's how, and Felicia Rashad, who of course is Claire Huxtable, her sister, who's the great Debbie Allen,
Debbie Allen,
choreographer,
yeah.
was a producer on that show, was an actor in that show. You had Diane Carroll playing Whitley's mom, who is the first Black woman to have won a Tony in a leading role in 1962 in No Strings. You have Patti LaBelle playing Dwayne's mom.
Yeah.
This is really a huge achievement for Black creatives and Black performers and artists and actors and dancers. And they feature a lot of performers in that show, and it was a great way of recognizing Black talent. And I watch Jennifer Guy now in her interviews, and she's like, it was just, I mean, every episode was a hoorah. We were here celebrating and showing our culture in a very safe space at a HBCU, while also encouraging and inspiring a generation of Black students to go to college.
So I'm a white guy from a small town,
Yeah,
brought
encourage
up
you
in,
as well.
sorry.
It encouraged you as well.
So basically, so I brought up in the 80s, and 90s. So so basically I watched the Cosby Show. I watched A Different World, Cosby Show, the guy, the Cliff Huxtable. It still holds up today. I know it's a different lens because of what happened with Bill Cosby, but he was a
Yeah.
doctor. His wife was a lawyer, right?
Mhm.
They lived in Brooklyn. They lived in a nice, beautiful home in Brooklyn,
The brownstone in Brooklyn.
brownstone in Brooklyn. Different world. All it's a black like dominated show. Marissa Tomei was in the first year, and then she like disappeared. And with Lisa
Yep.
Bonet, they kind of reformatted the show, right?
Yeah, Lisa Bonet got, because Lisa Bonet fell out with Bill Cosby because Bill Cosby is, as we know, a weirdo.
Yeah.
And Lisa Bonet got pregnant and married to Lenny Kravitz and had Zoe Kravitz. And anyway, that was a whole thing
I think it was,
because,
but she was in the movie called Angel Heart with De Niro was in that movie, and I think she showed her breast, and
oh
he had a
yeah,
conniption fit.
yep, because he's so respectable.
But then he came, but she came back later on the Cosby Show, right? She became a recurring character on the Cosby Show, right? So like after the different world, but she left the different world. So anyway, so here's this show that it's a black college, but everybody's like you said, Dwayne or Kadeem Hardison was like
Yeah,
this mathematician, like all these people were headed for success, right? So I'm watching this as a 13, 12, 13 year old. I don't see
yeah,
any black people in my neighborhood. I don't see any black. But at the same time, I think it educated me a great deal. It showed me that, oh, look at these, they're doing this. It's like that was my primitive little mindset. Basically, I think it helped jumpstart me because look at that show. Cosby Show was getting 30 million people a week were watching that show. 29 people were. I was looking at the stats before I talked to you. 29 million people a week were watching A Different World. That doesn't happen now, right? If a show gets 8 million viewers, it's a gigantic success
got
now, right?
it.
So
Right.
imagine how many people were watching that show and the influence on the culture that show had. Basically, that's just my point. I just wanted to make before, yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you for making those points and
Yeah.
bringing your um perspective, because I love that to hear that it was so far reaching. And I think we knew it was, and that's why it holds this very strong place of nostalgia in our collective mindset, like A Different World. That's why it's so easily recognized. And I wish it was syndicated so that we can be watching it. But A Different World cast is now like the actual cast, Whitley and Dwayne, and I think Cree Summer, who plays Freddie, are on tour now at HBCUs. They
Oh,
just went to Spelman and now they're going to Howard. So, they're still very much an influential ensemble.
that's amazing. Okay, let's talk about the film. It's 2 minutes long. It's fantastic. It's probably the best under minute, 5 minute film. I see a lot of films. It's like it's in the top 2% of the year because you can tell
Oh, thank
the
you.
work that you put into this film, and it's almost kind of like it's almost like a I'm going back to the 80s again. It's like a Super Mario Brothers way to do it. Like you're kind of like going down the line. It's like a video
Yeah,
game, right? And it's like it's one dimensional, meaning that, and then you're just showing us the history of these women that, let's be honest, 99% of the population doesn't know about, right?
unfortunately, no. But I feel, I'm like Alice Walker. The Color Purple just came out, the remake.
Yeah,
Like, I'm sure people are rereading that book. That was
hopefully.
well, Alice Walker is the author of The Color Purple, which has just been remade into another musical, yet another. And so I show Alice Walker, but I don't show her. I show the scene from The Color Purple in the 80s of Suge singing to Celie.
Yeah.
And then we have Andre Leon Talley, who, I think was killed by Anne Wintour, but that's my he's in there. So he looks great. He's doing Vogue stuff. So it's not all just women. It's I just queer people, throughout history. But I guess it is woman heavy. But Polly Murray, who was an Episcopalian priest,
Yeah.
is trans. Probably would be considered as trans now, but maybe
My
not.
apologies. I'm just, yeah, you're
Yeah, no
100%.
problem.
Yeah.
We're just just queer folk.
So not the name drop for a second, but I had the fortune to have a relationship with Ray Don Chan, who was in the original Color Purple, and she's on
Yeah,
record. So I'm not saying anything that out of school, but she's on record saying that Spielberg didn't. He was a little bit scared of the LGBT kind
yeah,
of world, and he didn't push it. He didn't push it as far as he could have been, because he's making ET and he's making these blockbusters. He didn't want to even tackle the
yeah.
LGBT scenes, right? There's like a kissing scene that he stopped during filming, she said, basically, and now the remake is out, and they really kind of told the book what it's supposed to be, I guess, right?
Yeah, because the book is very explicit that Celie and Suge, the two main characters, were having a sexual relationship.
Yeah,
Actually, Suge Avery was having a sexual relationship with Celie and her husband, but not at the same time. It was never a threesome situation or menage a trois. She just was very, sexually liberated and was pretty comfortable in her bisexuality to the point where she seduces Celie and they have a romantic and sexual relationship throughout the entirety of the book.
so how many actors did you have for this 2 minute film?
Um, oh, let's see.
Wow.
I had probably about, I think there were like 12.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was fun. I was in the scene. I played Alice Dunbar Nelson, and a lot of people, are you familiar with Black fraternities and sororities, or you've heard of them?
I've
Watching
heard
a
of them,
different,
yeah, but yeah.
yeah. Well, my Alison Barr Nelson, the first one, is the person who was with the man. And so I play Alison Barr Nelson, and I played her because I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, which is a which is a historically Black sorority,
Yeah.
founded at Howard University in 1913. And Alice Dunbar Nelson was also a soror, so at Delta. And I put the color in red because that our colors are crimson and cream. And the second scene I think is uh there are two women who were AKAs, which is Alpha Kappa Alpha, also a historically Black sorority. And I put them in pink because their colors are pink and green. So I played with colors a lot too.
Oh
But
no, that's
anyway,
what your color template is amazing, and it's like I said, it's one continuous shot, but it's not. I'm no like so basically you obviously cheated in the film, but do you have how many sequences in total do you have? I think you have like 12 sequences.
I think it's like probably like 9,
Okay.
but it looks long. Some are repeated in the
Oh, okay,
same,
gotcha.
so it's probably like 11 shots. What we did was we had a dolly. Did you figure it out? Because I was trying to figure out, my cinematographer, who's Lisa Janae, is amazing, and she owns Terra Visuals, and she we were like, I was showing her a different world. I was like, do you see, like, how could they have possibly done that, back in the 90s? But they got a dolly track
Yeah.
and just had the set. And what they did was they started the dolly track with the camera, smoothly glided it across, and we used the metronome to keep time, right? So that the editing was okay. And then we did it again, went back. And then we had the editor but we had a clear in and end marker,
Yeah.
in and out marker for us to edit.
And then you had like the blocking between each segment so that it looks like it appears to be one continuous shot, but obviously it wasn't, because that would be impossible. But yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was pretty cool.
It's pretty amazing. So tell me, so Pauline Murray that you have in black and white, and you have kind of like a movie setup. Why did you choose her to be like the real person, kind of like a movie?
I think so. She actually was a lawyer, Episcopalian priest, which is like something that is not heard of, and Black and trans and or non-binary. And was committed themselves many times to an institution because they had feelings of not belonging in this body, they didn't feel they just struggled with their gender identity and sexuality, but had open relationships with women and just incredibly intelligent. I'm like, I don't know anyone who can portray this person. I don't even know how we would you know, really capture them in the way that would show them, would give them justice
Gotcha.
to their brilliance. And I was like, let's just all sit and admire them. I was like,
Gotcha.
let's just admire them on the screen, because and then that's that real black and white footage we got is beautiful. They're
Yeah.
smiling and they just look so happy. I also wanted to be like we were learning from them. Like since they were a professor at Howard, I wanted to be like this. We could also just be all sitting in, you know, the class and learning from this brilliant mind.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It also breaks up the film too, right? Because you kind of do it like halfway in between the halfway in the film. So you got all these color templates, like you said, purple, blue. It's like even the actors are all kind of colorful, positive. And then you have this scene and it works tone wise, it really does, where like it's all of a sudden she's serious, right? And we're watching her, and you have the kind of like the people watching her like a theater. And it's like, yeah, she's happy, she's smiling. Everybody's smiling in your movie, right? Like it's like fuck everybody else. We're happy and we don't care what anybody thinks. Sorry, that's my impression. And
Thank
so,
you.
but
That's
but
what I
it's
wanted
serious,
to
right?
convey.
What's that?
I said that's what I wanted to convey, because I think so many things are always told with a white narrative in mind, or like having to be necessarily like palatable to whiteness. And
Yeah,
I was like, I think we have a history. I know we have a history that does not center whiteness as an institution where we are allowed to live and be happy and fantastical and whimsical. And I wanted to portray these queer relationships and queer people in that light without having, because we are joyful, you know,
yeah.
because you know, homophobia and racism and transphobia exist doesn't mean we weren't joyful. We were also joyful people and
Because
still are.
you're in your community. You're in your. Why wouldn't you be a joyful? Like when you're serious, when you have to be serious, but then you get to play and you get to be because it's like even when you're having with that with the person that we're mentioning is like they are at work. They have a job. They are able to do their craft. Like
Mhm.
they're being undermined, of course, in society, but they're still able to be themselves and they're pushing the boundaries, right?
They were, and I find that they chiseled out an amazing space for themselves in life and in society. And I hope that's the message that goes across, is that no matter what your identity is and what, you know, people may think of you because of their prejudices or biases, carve out a space for yourself in life and, you know, make your own path and be joyful through it all, because we don't have to center things that are negative. We simply don't.
Yeah. Okay, so that obviously your film, I'm sure you've been told this before, is that you're it's amazing, but now we want to know more, right? Like it's almost like this is you're giving us a little seed, which is an amazing seed, but we want to see the plant grow with these stories. Do you have any plans to
I
like extend your I don't know, documentary style or just like a docudrama or like to extend these characters and these stories?
I have so many. I love working with historical fiction, but also like just history and biopics and telling, you know, telling people's stories in like
Yeah,
almost fantastic ways. So I love what Ryan Murphy is doing now with Feud. I really enjoy that, like Truman Capote, The Swans, because it's taking a real life event and making it, and his cinematography is amazing, production design. And so I feel like that's what I did with this. And it's just to show my style and where my mindset is at. My mindset is at representing the more underrepresented stories of history that we don't hear about, and also the future. I'm into that too. But I find there's so many fascinating people in every decade, in every era, presently and historically, and I know there will be some in the future. I'm here to tell those stories in a beautiful, fantastical, whimsical, also serious way. And I think this is just the 2 minutes is my contribution. It's like, this is what I can do
yeah.
with the little money I have as an independent filmmaker. Like, you know, I'm not independently wealthy. So, you know, this is the money I've put together to make this. Invest in me as a filmmaker, and there can be more. So I have scripts. I'm writing right now a biopic on Carol Channing.
Oh wow.
Because did you know Carol Channing was passing?
Oh
Did you know that her father was Black?
yeah.
Anyway, she came out about in her story, but she is, you know, originated Hello Dolly, Dolly on Broadway, and is
Yeah,
this huge fixture in television, you know,
sure.
with the funny voice. And so I have this biopic about her that I want to write, and I also want to tell it also from a perspective that introduces race into the aspect and how because there's this funny story. She grew up with her dad was black actually and was mixed, and her grandmother, her maternal grandmother, was a slave, her father's mom, and her father's dad died, and when he died, the formerly enslaved woman took her son and her children up north and pretended like she was their servant so that they could then pass and go to good schools. And he ended up going to Yale and becoming a great orator, but he grew up in a cabin in Georgia. And so he would sing, he would code switch a lot. Like he would be at home saying one thing, and then he became a great, also, I think he wrote for the San Francisco Chronicle and was a great newspaperman and a great lecturer, Christian Scientist lecturer, but we'll talk a whole different way in, you know, professional settings. And so Carol Channing picked up on that. Anyway, Carol Channing was touring with Hello Dolly, and that's when Lyndon B. Johnson was running for president. And back then, they would have like Broadway stars introduce the president and stuff because arts and politics really went hand in hand together.
Yeah.
And so she would sing Hello Lyndon and go with him to different things. And so one time, as they do, they went to like a black church while he was like, you know, giving a speech. And she introduced him. And during that, she is, you know, during the black church service, they're singing like Negro spirituals. And she's like, she knows like all the words. And so she's like singing these words and singing these Negro spirituals. And she didn't, when they went to the Catholic churches, the other white churches, you know, she didn't know those words, but she knew all the Negro spirituals. So Lyndon B. Johnson turns to her and says, "How do you know these songs, Carol?" And she's like, "Oh, my dad sings them all the time." And so this was in the 60s. So her, like that idea of double consciousness that she was working out of is so aloof. Like she was so aloof about it, which is like Carol Channing's personality anyway. So it's kind of hilarious that she almost didn't know, you know, that she was embodying these two cultures. So that is my screenplay, and I hope to get it funded. But until now, I'm making a pilot TV web series called Black Girls Kissing, and I'll send you the website when I have it. I should have it in a week.
That's amazing. So you're like, you're on your way. And like, it's, I love how you're even described, like, this is like, obviously you said it's an independent film and you do, like you said, you don't have all kinds of money in the world, but you made this great 2-minute film. But it seems like, I could be wrong, but it seems like there was a great team of people. Like you said, you had 12 actors and you had nice, amazing costumes, amazing cinematography, that people were really excited to be a part of your project. Am I wrong with that assessment?
No, you're so correct. Everyone was amazing, and we paid such attention to detail. And I love being a producer and director because it's paying attention to the process and detail. And then you give, you know, these different tasks to everyone else: wardrobe designer, gaffer, you know, lighting assistant, whatever. And they take your vision that you've talked to them about, communicated with them, and say, "Now go run with that, and you know, make that happen." Everybody brings their own creative vision to the project that then, you know, catapults into this huge thing that you're seeing on the screen now, which is beautiful. So it's a collaborative effort, and I love that, of artists. And these artists were all amazing, and this is their profession, and so hire them if you see them.
And yeah, they're not saying any lines, but they're part of this amazing project, right? Like they're like, it's because they're in this, most of them are in the film for 3-5 seconds, right? But it's like, but they're part of the collaborative vision that you're giving in the film. I got to ask you about the costumes. Like, how did you assemble these amazing outfits for the film?
Natalie is my wardrobe designer. Natalie lives in New York City. Natalie is in the credits. Please look her up. Nataly. And I met her. It was so funny. How did I meet her? I met her in New York City at like this, there was like this rap thing that my cousin was doing, and I just went, and she seemed nice. So I was talking to her, and then we like hang out a few times. And then she told me that she does like wardrobe or costume design for like music videos. And I said, "Oh, can you do one? I'm a filmmaker. I'll keep you in mind." And she came together with these vintage clothes. Her Instagram is VNTGNATA. So
she's fantastic. It's like, yeah, it's a really good film. Like, really like perfectly executed on all levels. And who recreated the song? Who did the song?
That is Jada. Jada is my Spelman. She went to Spelman, where, you know, a different world is based. Because I went to Spelman, so that also influenced the whole idea of a different world. Uh,
Gotcha.
Jada, let me find her Instagram. She was my Spelman sis and also queer and also a singer. And I said, want to be in this and play Suge? She was like, I always want to play Suge Avery. And I was like, great. Do you also want to redo the score? And she said, of course. And she's a great singer.
Well,
So
that's a great thing for her career, right? From a practical standpoint, that's a great song that she did. And even your costume person, that if they want to showcase her talent, she could just say, here's this 2 minute film, watch this, watch, see what I can do. So it's a really great ensemble of people. What did you think about what did you think about the audience? We sent the audience video to you. What did you think of what they had to say about your film?
I thought that was so like it was so constructive. They told me what they loved about it. I didn't hear one negative thing except that it was too short, which I take as a compliment.
Yeah.
And even if there was something negative, I would totally, you know, I love to grow on that. But there was literally nothing that they said to improve. They just loved it. And it makes me feel affirmed, really, and it makes me want to keep going, which I'm gonna do. But thank you for, you know, hosting the film and um sending that audience feedback, because it is affirming as to me as an independent filmmaker and wants me to keep, you know, it's encouraging me, which is what we all need.
And you don't like, I just to tie things up from what I was saying in the beginning, is that I'm watching your film from a different from the Generation X perspective, right? Like this is part of
Right.
my upbringing. Whereas
Right.
like half the people probably on the audience had no idea what a different world was, but they still appreciate and they still understand your film, right? So you're watching in a different lens. People are watching in different lenses.
Yeah, I don't even tell them when I'm
Yeah.
like when they don't know. I'm like, maybe you'll see it one day and be like, oh, and like hark back to like my film and be like, oh, wait, that goes deeper than I let. You know, it's on many levels. It's deep, but also it can be, you can see it. I appreciate it because it works independently without a different world theme song. You can still appreciate it without having known what we know.
So I'm just going to share you what happened with me is that I'm watching the film for the first time. It got passed to me. People are like, "You got it. This is the amazing film. You got to program it." So I'm watching it, and then I'm like, Why is this so familiar to me?" It took me like 20 seconds to
Nice.
realize. I'm like, "Oh my god!" And it just like everything flashed back to my early teenage years, and I actually got like a little tear in my eye because it didn't come to me right away. It just like it kind of like it almost like this nostalgia grew on me in a sense where it's like, and it just then all of a sudden I went right back to my like youthful insecure childhood. But beating that, like it's just like it just like it wasn't just like it didn't hit you. It just like it kind of like it's hard to explain, but it was like it really gave me a really kind of visceral feeling. It was like kind of a I like for someone who watches a lot of short films, this one stands out for me.
Oh, I am so appreciative, and it's gonna make me keep going. So
Yeah, but
hope.
that's the final point. Keep making movies. You're definitely have a vision. You definitely you're onto something. So good luck with the sitcom and good luck with everything in the screenplay. But seriously, keep making movies. You got a point of
Yeah,
view and keep like it's like a craft, right? You gotta keep like it's like an instrument. You gotta keep playing it,
yeah,
right?
seriously. I agree. Thank you so much.
All right, let's talk again when you make your next film.
All right, will do. I'll see you hopefully next year. I got one on the way.
All right, cool.